So I'm going to jump right into the overview of the study and what we found so that we have plenty of time to hear from our students and one of our colleagues who is a transfer center director and how they're dealing with transfer in the current environment. So again, thank you everyone and welcome. Next slide, please. For anyone who's not familiar with our organization, the RP Group, which stands for the Research and Planning Group, we are the membership organization for the researchers and planners in the California Community College, and we primarily conduct research, evaluation, and offer professional development and technical assistance. We are an independent nonprofit organization. Thank you. Next slide. We also want to acknowledge the College Futures Foundation, who was the funder of this study. They've been wonderful partners, and we look forward to continuing to partner with them going forward. Next slide, please. So today we're going to share with you a new framework that came out of talking to students about their transfer capacity. We're going to be spotlighting Crafton Hills College, which is in the Inland Empire, Southern California, about how their students are experiencing transfer and how they're responding to that. And then we'd like for you to consider your own transfer practices and the implications for helping students achieve their goal of a baccalaureate during this trying time. Next slide. So students speak their truth about transfer, what they need to get through the gate. Next slide. So this study began with trying to look at something that we thought was happening, but we wanted to look in the data to find out is, are there individuals out there who are completing all or most of their transfer requirements, but then not transferring? With the goal of, if that is the case, how can we help them? What kind of strategies, what kind of practices, policies can we put in place to help students make that final move towards transfer? Thank you. Next slide. So it was a three-phase approach. The first phase, again, was just looking at the quantitative data to see, is this a problem? How many students are we talking? What do they, who are these students? Then we went to phase two, which consisted of a survey and some follow-up interviews with these students to find out what was going on in their lives that was potentially preventing them from transferring. And then right now we are in phase three, where we will be convening different leaders across the state and practitioners to try to figure out how can we strategically address what students are telling us are holding them back. Next slide, please. So that first phase, again, looking at the quantitative data, what we found over a 5-year period, that there were about 300,000 students who fell into how we categorize as either at the gate or near the gate, meaning that they had completed all or most of their transfer requirements. Other things we learned when we looked at these data was that more than half of the students in these two categories were leaving. They stopped attending without earning any kind of credential, degree, or certificate. At the time, this was obviously pre-AB 705, so math was a huge barrier for a lot of students, that it might have been the only requirement that they had not fulfilled, which was preventing them from transferring. We also found that once students reach the criteria for near the gate, if they did not transfer within 1 year, their chances of transferring decreased significantly. We found a somewhat interesting finding among African Americans, in that typically when you look at them in a cohort study that begins with freshmen, they along with Latinx or Latino students were least likely to transfer. But when you narrowed the group down to students who had achieved most or all of their transfer requirements, they became the most likely to transfer. But again, the problem is many of these students do not make it that far. But if we can get them that far, they are more likely than any other group to transfer. And then finally, we did find that Latino, Latinx students were more likely than other groups to be at or near the gate, and therefore not transfer. Next slide, please. So what I referenced earlier is this transfer capacity building framework. And so we were able to reach over 800 students across 31 different community colleges in the state. And we learned from them that this was not a motivation issue. The vast majority of them were still motivated to transfer in order to secure a better life for them and their families. What we also learned from them is they need colleges to provide a more holistic, integrated approach to transfer, to helping them transfer, and focusing on students' ultimate goal, which is not transfer. Students don't transfer and then go, yay, I transferred, I'm done. Their ultimate goal is a bachelor's degree, and we at the community colleges need to keep that in our minds as we are helping them reach that goal of transfer. And then finally, community colleges cannot do this by themselves. It's going to take a partnership, a strengthening the partnerships that exist, establishing new partnerships with our university partners, both private and public. Next slide, please. So this is the framework. I'm going to go through very quickly to make sure I stay on time. These 4 factors that make up the transfer capacity building framework. Next slide, please. So the first one, and this is one where we looked at it all different kinds of ways, and in every way we looked at it, finances were the biggest hurdle across all students, no matter of race, ethnicity, gender, age, didn't matter. All of the students, their number one concern was about financing, and specifically financing their university education. And a lot of them, from talking to them, from them filling out the survey, was very clear that they didn't have enough information. They didn't understand what is the true cost of attending different universities, but also what kind of aid is available to them. And that the aid available at a university can look very different than the aid available at a community college. And just to also note, on each of these slides, you'll see there's a quote there. I encourage you to read that from different students in the interviews that we conducted. Next slide, please. The other one, another factor that came up quite frequently is students trying to address the many responsibilities they have in addition to school. So whether that's work or family, and trying to juggle all of that. And this one is about what role do we play as colleges in helping students manage all of the aspects of their lives. And this is similar to what I've said about students' motivation, in that yes, it does belong to them. They are responsible for it, but we need to examine our role. Are we playing a positive or negative role? Are we making things easier or harder? Are we part of the problem or the solution? So are we looking at our course scheduling, especially for students who are at or near the gate? You probably all talk to students who are struggling to get that last class or those last classes, and there's only, again, oftentimes there's only one section offered, and it's offered at a time or a day that they just can't make. So what are we doing to try to make sure that students are able to meet their requirements, and especially in those last terms when they're down to the last requirements? Also looking at childcare. And this is also where the place boundedness comes into play. There are a lot of students who cannot move. They can't just pick up and move to another part of the state because that's where the university is that will accept them. They need to have more options available to them locally, whether that's through university centers on their community college campuses, whether that's 3+1 programs, whether that's online programs. But we need to be looking at other solutions for students who are place-bound, whether by their choice or otherwise. Next slide. Pathway navigation. This is the idea that students often, and again, many of us have talked to these students too. It was I wish I had known, I wish someone had told me, I wish I hadn't taken, I didn't need this class. I wish I had all of those things. We need to be much more clear, much earlier with students to make sure that they are getting accurate and timely information about their pursuits all the way through their transfer journey. They need to be checking in all along the way. It's not about getting the ed plan once at the beginning when you start and then just following that. We had one of the students in the study talk about that she had done that on her own and didn't check in until she had met all of the IGETSI requirements and went to see a counselor and was told, what about your major requirements? She thought she was done and she wasn't. So if we can do a better job of making sure that students are getting the information they need and that information is being checked throughout their time with us, that will help them immensely. Next slide, please. And then finally, the support network. We heard over and over again, and I think you're going to hear some of this also from our students, the importance of that support, and that support comes in many different ways from many different people. I mean, obviously, the usual suspects are instructional and counseling faculty, but classified staff, other students, family, friends, all of these things, all these people rather, fit together into a support network, and that most students need some kind of network of people that support them in different ways. And sometimes it's just encouragement. Sometimes it's just, you can do it. I believe in you. You're smart. You can make it. Sometimes it's actual practical help. Here's what you need to do. Here's where you need to go. This is what you need to read. Those kinds of things. So it's a combination of getting that kind of support from a variety of different people in their lives. And I think we at the colleges could do more to help students understand, first of all, they need this support network and why it's helpful, how it can be helpful to them, but also how to build it. How do they start building it? You can't assume the students know how to build a support network when they arrive on our campus, but what can we do to help them figure out, again, the value of it and then how to pursue that? Next slide. So again, I referenced the need that students express of a holistic and integrated approach. This is where guided pathways comes in. This is where focusing on equity comes in, meeting students where they are, giving them the support they need when they need it, making sure that we're communicating with them proactively and not just waiting. We were actually having a conversation before we got on the webinar with you all about how a lot of times I've talked to students and they say the only time the college communicates with me is when I'm in trouble, which means I either owe them money or I'm academic probation. When do we reach out and say, good job, thanks for being here, or hey, I noticed you're not here anymore, can we help you? Some kind of way to proactively, consistently reaching out to students throughout their entire time with us, not just at the beginning, not just when they're in trouble. The other thing is, again, kind of speaks to this support network, recognizing that everyone does have that role to play in helping students transfer. And I think the institution's responsibility is, one, setting that as the culture and the expectation, but also helping people in different roles figure out how can they support students' transfer success. And then, again, like mentioned earlier, making sure that we are not just focusing on getting the student transferred, but are we preparing the student to be successful after transfer? So it's not just getting them to that gate, right, or even through the gate, but what happens after, and have we set them up for success? So making sure that we are considering the student's ultimate goal, not just what we are measured on. Next slide. So this is where I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Alyssa Nguyen, our Director of Research and Evaluation, and she's going to introduce our wonderful students and Transfer Center Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper, for sharing the key findings from our Through the Gate research project, and then also the insights from the student perspectives on the factors that students indicated impacted their readiness for university and ways to build their transfer capacity. So now we're going to transition to our panel discussion with transfer students and a practitioner from one of our studies participating colleges. The college that we will be spotlighting today is Crafton Hills College, and in this panel discussion, they are going to share with you all their real-time response to these factors in the current COVID environment. So our first panel presenters are our students, Emiliano Arizmendi Castilla, Marianne Fernandez, and Eliza Mejia, to share with you all their transfer experience. So before we get started on having them share their transfer experiences as it relates to the current environment, we'd like to have them introduce themselves and share a little bit about where they're at with their current transfer path. So we're going to start with Emiliano.
Hello, my name is Emiliano Arismendi Castilla. I'm preparing to transfer. So my major is political science. I want to focus on international affairs, and yeah, I plan to transfer.
Great, thank you, Emiliano. The next panelist is Marianne.
Hi everyone, I'm Marianne Fernandez. Right now, I actually am majoring in psychology. I got accepted to Cal State San Bernardino for the prep psychology program, so I got through the gate, but I'm still trying to figure a lot of things out as far as trying to transfer right now, and everything's online. So right now, I made it to Cal State San Bernardino.
Thank you, Marianne. And then Liza.
Hi, thank you for having me. My name is Liza Mejia, and I am a sociology major. And I did graduate from Crafton with my associates for transfer in sociology and psychology. And I was accepted to all 4 UCs that I applied to. And the school I will be transferring to this fall is UCLA, Go Bruins.
Thank you, Liza, and congrats to all 3 of you for making it as far as you have. And thank you again so much for joining us so that you can share with all of us your transfer experiences. So let's have Emiliano kick us off with sharing with everyone. So as you approach transfer in this moment in time, and as we grapple with the current COVID-19 environment, what issues are you confronting related to these factors that were just shared?
Well, mainly as an undocumented student, the main factor is financial aid and how to afford college, and what resources are available for me or for everyone as an undocumented student. That's basically the main option, because there is not many info out there that can help us undocumented students. Also, with the COVID-19 situation, it's more like communication with people on campus, because when we used to be on campus, we would just walk up to the office and speak to anyone. Today, we have to make appointments and go through this process that otherwise wouldn't be in place. But that's the main challenge, just communication and how hard it is to make an appointment at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Emiliano. What about you, Marianne?
I can actually add on to that what Emiliano had just said. As far as like university affordability, I don't think a lot of people really know how much colleges really are. You go through the whole process with the whole financial aid and what you can get approved for, you don't get approved for. Like when Crafton had explained the whole subsidized loans and Cal grants and stuff, there's just so many different ones that are there and you just don't really know about. And as far as communication and everything with this whole COVID and everything online, it's just a lot of organizing. You have to be organized, meet deadlines. I just don't communicate with Crafton now that I'm in Cal State San Bernardino. I have to communicate with them as well, as far as, you know, orientation, registration, and all that. So it's a lot of deadlines and pathway navigation. If you are trying to transfer, there's just so many other information that needs to be provided to students, and Crafton did just that. You need like the 60 transferable units, certain GPA, the golden 4 classes. None of that I never knew about. So with all this, it's just a lot of communicating with the colleges and just organizing everything just for you to meet deadlines, because you don't want to fall behind.
So it's awareness of the available financial resources and all of the requirements, not just from the community college, but also what the university resources and information are too.
Correct, because it's so different. A community college expectation from a Cal State expectations, they're two different things.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Marianne. And what about you, Liza? How are you grappling with these issues and confronting it related to the factors?
Yeah, well, my biggest concern during this unfortunate pandemic is being able to build those connections with the transfer community. You know, everything now, it's online, text messages, emails, and as a non-traditional student and a single parent, it's a lot harder finding that supportive network. And that's very crucial for, I mean, I know for many students, but you know, for me to be successful, and that's something that I did have at Crafton. They're very supportive, very encouraging, and you know, they saw something in me that I didn't see. So that's my main thing right now, is just being, I wish I could go to the campus and go sit down with someone, and unfortunately it's impossible right now. So that's my biggest, yeah, it's hard.
So Emiliana, Marianne, and Liza, with what you've all shared right now, and what are some of the ways you are getting the support to facilitate your transfer? So Liza, you talked about the importance of having the support network and all of the pieces that were in place when you were able to get it in person, now being a challenge with everything going remote. So what are some of the things that have worked for you, if at all, during this time to ensure that you still have that bridge to the supports?
Well, I've reached out to the transfer center at Crafton, and before the pandemic, I had interacted with admission advisors within the UC system, and I still have their contact information. So I have reached out to them, and they've given me advice. So that's been very helpful, because, I mean, on social media, you know, UCLA does post Q&As and things like that, but it's just not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been reaching out to individuals that I know have really guided me and helped me, and have helped me get through the gate. So going back to my roots.
Great, thank you, Liza. And then Marianne, what are some of the things right now that are really helpful for you in terms of getting the information around, you know, how you afford the university, and what are all of the deadlines and steps you need to make sure you're completing?
As far as that, so like I said, with everything online now, I ask. Anything that I just don't know, I'm not too sure of, I ask. I contact Crafton a lot. I go to the transfer center. I go and email whoever I can get a hold of if I have any questions. Actually, Crafton has provided me with a lot of information, and as far as with Cal State as well, getting a hold of them is hard. They provided me with that information with important numbers and emails and everything else. So I mean, I am still communicating, just everything's done online. Just have to get certain emails and people to talk to.
Yes. Thank you, Marianne. And then Emiliano, as a DACA student, where are you finding resources around how you might be able to pay for your education during this time?
I'm turning to Mariana Moreno as well, to the transfer center and to the UPS office. Both of those offices have been really, really helpful to me, because they give you a lot of options, and they are ready to talk to you and listen to you and help you. I'm also turning to Canvas. Mariana Moreno presented, she published a module, a program that I can turn to and see what my deadlines are and stuff like that. And it's been really, really helpful. So yeah, I'm turning to the transfer center and EOPS office.
Great, thank you, Emiliano. So you actually segue us really nicely into the portion with Mariana around what are some of the ways Mariana's been supporting students during this time at Crafton Hills College. So before we transition to Mariana, wanted to check in to see if there was anything else you all would add in terms of who you are turning to for transfer support in this moment in time, other than Crafton Hills College and the Transfer Center.
I turned to the university I want to go. So I've talked to the University of Redlands. And they've been really helpful as well. So they teach you and they help you navigate the system. So yeah, I would recommend students who want to transfer to talk to the universities as well.
Mariana, Liza, anything to add to that?
I agree with Emiliano. Just keep in contact with all of your colleges that you do want to apply for, you're interested in. It's just all about communicating, and it doesn't ever hurt to ask.
Mm-hmm.
If you're curious or you need to know things, just ask. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. And Liza, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I mean, just, reach out to those at the campus that you want to go to. Even though, it can be impersonal because you can't be in person and, get to make those connections. Gotta make the best of it during these times.
Thank you, Liza. And really what all three of you have shared is just how important the coordination and the collaboration of the segments really need to be in place to ensure that you all are receiving accurate and timely information and communications about what is needed to support your transfer success. So thank you for sharing. So next we're going to hand it off to Mariana Moreno, who is the Transfer Center Director at Crafton Hills College, to share with you all how she is in the current environment supporting transfer success at the college.
Great. Thank you so much. I first want to say hello to all my friends out there. I see some of you, I recognize you, and I'm glad that you're here to listen to this really important research that's been done, which, because you're interested in transfer, like me, I know several of you are very passionate about this, and I just want to thank the committee for allowing me to be part of this study. I've really have learned a lot about it, and as a counselor, answering your first initial question is, when I saw the 4 pillars, I said to myself, hey, that looks familiar, because I think anecdotally, counselors do see that this is an issue with, that those are the barriers that we see mostly in students. And through my work here, my participation really in this Through the Gate study, I realized that we have to do more than just, we have to have additional resources for students to be able to access 24/7, so that, because they can't all come to our offices and they work and are balancing multiple things. And so I created the canvas. It's not my original idea. I actually got the idea from my colleague at College of the Desert. And so there are a few canvas shells related to transfer out there, but mine is specifically meant with the Through the Gate study in mind. I wanted to do something, have some kind of resource for students that are near the gate and at the gate. And so I created this, my whole transfer shells or sandbox is based on that. I first wanted to show you though that students get access to this transfer course or this transfer shell through a message in Starfish. We utilize Starfish at Crafton, and when a student hits 30 transferable units, whether it's CSU or UC or UC, they will receive an automatic message from Starfish congratulating them that they have completed 30 units and that it's time now to begin looking into the transfer process. And so we invite them to our Canvas shell that way through the link. And it also has a timeline for them to review. And so when they get to the transfer sandbox, what they're seeing is a 5-step process to help them navigate during their final year at Crafton. So one of the things I asked my student workers and some of my students, what made you come into the transfer center? And most of them usually tell you, well, I just wasn't sure. I'm not sure if I'm ready to transfer. I think I'm close, but I don't know. And so I took that feedback and realized that one of the first things I needed to do is have some kind of a quick assessment to that students could go through to see if they are ready to transfer. And so I created a 5-question for the Cal State, 5 questions for the UC, and a 1 question for a private school. So I'm going to share it and hope that so far so good. It's not, my internet is fine, that's good. So for my private school, it's only 1 question. So I thought, okay, this is good to share. I have or will have 24 units by the time I transfer to a private or out-of-state university. So let's just say the student says yes. Based on what they answer, it will have information for them. So if it's a yes, yay, good job. Meet with one of our counselors just to make sure that you meet all the, the other requirements such as GPA or specific courses. They can make a virtual appointment with us at the moment since they can't see us in person. So if the student were to answer no, they would have a different response, or not sure, they would also have a different response. And so if we get back to the home page, and so we just wanted to move through the steps. Ideally, then they would research universities, so which universities have my major. And as I was building the transfer shell, I wanted to make sure that, I was as inclusive as possible with our privates and out-of-state universities as well. And I also was trying to make it so that there isn't too much wording. I mean, we wanted enough to get our point across, right? But I wanted students to find value in it and actually go through it. And I was afraid that if I put too much information there, that they would, just skip over it. So each of the pages you'll see, or assignments, has links and has pictures, and some have videos, again, to just help the student with that step, wherever they may be. So I hope it's not too slow now. Okay, so far so good. I've also tried to put in online and evening options for students. And based on the report, I used to have how much is the 4-year cost in another step way further down the line. And I realized, based on the study, I need to change that around. And so I added information about the cost of attending college. When do I meet with a counselor? The value of meeting with the university representative and visiting universities, just information on how to do that. Step 3 is applying for transfer. So what is the UC tag? Sorry, excuse my dog. The file transfer application due date. So this is actually built as an assignment. And so when there's assignments on Canvas, what it will do is that it will show up as with all the other assignments that they have for the class to remind students, hey, you have this deadline coming up, September 30th is the deadline. And I just go through the process of, what do you need to do a tag, and just some basic information, always pointing them back to us in the transfer center. So if they click here, sign up for a UC tag workshop, it takes them to our workshop scheduling system online so that they can schedule their own workshop when they need to. And the same thing for the UC application workshop. So really what I want students to do is to not miss any deadlines. So that's why you will see these assignments with deadlines there and everything they need in order to get through the process. Under Cal State application, they will see, again, it keeps pointing them back to creating an application or signing up for an application workshop with us. And if they need to get a hold of us during COVID time, they can do so virtually by clicking on that link. As I proceed down with the other steps, right? So after they've applied for transfer, one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions, and all my transfer center buddies out there know that students think that after they've applied, they're done, right? Oh, I've applied, I don't need help from the transfer center anymore. But it's really, actually really complicated. It takes a whole year to get through the process of transferring. And in step 4 is between December and July is when students have so many deadlines, and it's so confusing. And especially the more campuses they apply to, the more steps they have to take. And so it can get really sticky for them. So I want them to know that there's a UC application update that it's due January 31st. You'll notice that it's not published because, again, if I publish these, then it's going to show up on their assignments list, and this is already passed, and this is for next year students, so I don't want to publish that yet. Students have to do supplemental applications. They have to do, you know, those that are receiving an associate degree for transfer. We have a deadline that at Crafton, they really need to apply by, put in their petition by February 15th in order for us to turn right around and let the CSU know that the student verify their degree, that they're receiving their degree. What does partial transcripts mean? Students, this is the first time they hear what they never hear partial transcripts until after they apply. And they don't really understand what that means. And so it's a quick explanation: complete your FAFSA or DREAMAC. When should I expect a decision? And what if I get denied? I've been waitlisted. What does that mean? What do I have to do if I've been waitlisted? Or what if I get denied? Here we take them through the process of appeal, which in the transfer center at Crafton, we help them through all those appeal process. Show me the money. Here we show them how to access their award letter. And I use my Coyote as an example. And so that they at least get an idea of, hey, how much am I going to get? And where do I go on that CSU portal to access that information? And their student intent to register, enrollment deposit. So in all these areas, by missing one of them, a student can possibly really affect their transfer to the university, not get through the gate by missing deadlines. And again, those are my transfer peeps on this webinar know exactly what I'm talking about. And the final step, the get to know my university, it's really more of the warm send-off that we want students to have. We want them to transition successfully to the university. And so I'm encouraging them to attend, orientations or open houses if they're not mandatory. We want them to log into start liking social media at their new university, to visit the university's transfer center, to get to know the student services at the university. And I put a link here to the Cal State system, the UC system, and then specialized groups, right, for students. Because these particular groups, I think, stand out as students that really need to connect right away with somebody at that campus, ideally before they transfer, right? And so it's really, just a 5-step process. I try to make it as simple and intuitive as possible. And I did add, for students that are transferring for winter and spring term only, I did add a whole section for that. Theirs is similar. They have a lot of deadlines. It's not as complicated. Well, it's all complicated. But from the student view, I just quickly want to show you what it looks like. These are the deadlines that you will see, that the student will see on their Canvas. Remember, they're using Canvas for all their other classes. So then they'll start seeing these things. And my hope is that when they look at it, they click on it, right? And then they get more information from that. Currently, I have about 1,000 students in this Canvas, and I started it in November, and but I really didn't activate it fully. I was just using it for announcements primarily until April. And so I'm just still a lot of work that needs to get done, but I think it's a good start for students to have access, because as they were mentioning, they don't have access necessarily to us. It's not the same like it used to be. And that's, I think that was my biggest takeaway from this whole COVID time, is that I realized the gaps in our services at Crafton, because there wasn't anything readily available 24/7 like it used to be when they were on campus, so they can just walk up to us and ask us a quick question. I needed something that the students can go to, and that was really as easy as possible to find the information. My goal is in the future to build another Canvas sandbox, but it's going to be for 0 to 29 units. So for the students that are starting at Crafton, this one was meant more to get them, those students that are near the gate and at the gate, to get them through the gate. That was the intention of this one. And I think that's it for me. Oh, the last thing I want to mention is that I've dropped it into the comments. I've imported into the comments. And so if you're interested in marrying something similar and making it your own, it's there. It's an earlier iteration of this one, but it is there, and it's pretty close to what you see now. And so, feel free to take and add in what you need to do. I think that's it.
Thank you, Mariana, for this incredible resource. So we've had a lot of activity in the chat box just talking about what an incredible resource they are seeing just from all the information that you're building into this Canvas shell, and lots of requests for a link to and access to this Canvas shell. So thank you so much, Mariana, for making this available to the rest of the field.
You're welcome.
So based on what you've shared, clearly you've hit on all of the factors we just talked about in terms of clarifying and making it as crystal clear as possible for students. What are all of the steps and requirements needed to support their transfer success? You've got information in here about how they might go about paying for their transfer education, as well as a host of other pieces of information. So as you're working through supporting students during this time, Mariana, how are you seeing these factors play out in your students' transfer experience right now?
Well, it's really interesting with the study that a lot of the students struggle or are not sure how they're going to pay for the university. That one took me a little bit by surprise. All the other factors I could see, the lack of support, students in the counseling office, I see that there's students that don't have anyone at home to be their cheerleader, right? Or that even understands what they're going through. And I saw the pathway navigation. I see it on my own campus, the barriers that students face. Trying to balance school and all their other responsibilities, right, that they have to do. But the financial one, it took me a little by surprise that it was such a big issue for students, right? Which is good for me to get a better idea of that, because perhaps maybe because I see students more towards the end, right, that they have some information, but there is a lot of resources out there for being able to finance their education. And so I'm definitely going to take this information and beef up the Canvas course, the Canvas shell, and the financial aid option, create banners at our campus with the UC's blue and gold, maybe partner with the CSU and the UC to provide some more financial literacy at our campus for students. And so, this is really good. It's really good for me to take back and learn from it and do something about it for our students.
Great, thank you so much, Mariana, for sharing this. Okay, so now we're going to move into some advice that you all have based on what you're currently experiencing to support transfer students during COVID-19. So Mariana, Emiliano, Liza, and Marianne, what advice do you have for people working in higher education, either at a community college or university, about how to support transfer students like you all during this crisis? So we'll start with Mariana, and then we'll move in next to Emiliano.
Okay, thank you, Alyssa. So for me, I think my advice would be to our administration, our community college administrators that are listening to this, in the sense that it takes a college to transfer each student. It's not just, a counselor's role, and it's not just a specific, the transfer center's role. It takes everyone, and everybody plays a part in the whole pathway navigation of a student. But, supporting your transfer center definitely is important. You get what you pay for. So if you don't have funding that goes directly to these services, your students are going to struggle because they're not going to have the expertise necessarily that is available to get them through the gate. As you can see, and I hope you were able to see through the campus shell that there's a lot of steps and there's a lot involved in the process. And students, the ed plan, as Dr. Cooper mentioned, it's the start, but students need more than that. They need a place they can go to that specializes in this. And so, I hope that you support your transfer services on your campus through dedicated staffing, because if you don't, then your students will, suffer or get stuck somewhere along the pathway navigation. But also support means that, you listen to the barriers of what your students are facing, and listen to your transfer staff and what they need in order to, to help students get through the gate. And for my transfer peeps, my counseling peeps, and the webinar, keep doing the good work you're doing, because even a small word of encouragement helps a student. It might be just what they need to keep going.
Great words, Mariana. Thank you. Emiliana, Marianne, and Liza, what advice would you give for folks that are working in our system right now to support you all with transfer success? So Emiliano, would you like to start?
Of course. I would like to say it's just more like publishing stuff, like resources for us. Like, you can see the resources in the webpage of the campus or whatever, but I think we need to publish more around campus, because some people just don't have access to the internet, or just don't want to reach out through a computer. So posting it around campus or social media and stuff like that, and anything available to students would be a good idea to just publish it everywhere and make students know that those sources are there for them.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Marianne?
I agree with that. As far as support for us transfer students would just be reminders, or sending out certain emails or anything that can remind students, if they plan on transferring, that they do need to have that certain information to them. Just not have us walk to the transfer center and see what needs to be done in order for us to transfer. So just little reminders would be really good for students who are going to transfer, but a transfer at Crafton Center it's helped a lot.
Great, thank you, Marianne. Liza?
Yeah, I really want to piggyback off of what Mariana said, and having at the university, having a dedicated admissions staff. Just from my experience, last year I was denied admission to the school, and the whole process, it was very discouraging, and I had to appeal and things of that sort. I can only imagine had that happened to me this year. I mean, I probably would have gave up. But yeah, I feel really having, staff that really looks at you as a student, not just, you need to have more caring individuals, representing your school and working for you. I feel that would really help.
Great, thank you, Liza. I mean, all of you and your perspectives really reinforces the need for our campuses to proactively reach out to students with information and really at every step of their transfer journey in order to support your success. And I think the other thing that your experiences as well as the 800 plus students from the study reinforces is that it really refocuses the community college's role in taking the long view in terms of how we prepare you all for your transfer success to earn your bachelor's degree in order to gain greater economic mobility. So we now have a few minutes for any Q&A that attendees may have for any of the presenters here. So we have about 8 minutes to cover any questions you all would like to ask any of the students or Mariana as well as Dr. Cooper. So please use the chat box and then we can.
Is this where we want to ask Kelly? If she's been...
So I was just going to say that there are a number of questions to the students about the best way to reach you, the most effective way to push you information, recognizing that sometimes students say we get flooded, we have so many emails, I don't know how to navigate the information that's coming at me. So there's a question around most effective way to reach you with the information you do need. Advice?
So I would say social media is the best thing for us. Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook. Some of us use Facebook, not many of us. But yeah, use social media for anything that you want to reach out to us. Post the social media accounts on the emails with the school website because we love social media, and that's the thing. We like social media and we want to connect to people through social media. Emails is useful, but not as useful as social media. But it depends on the age group as well. So some older folks will prefer to use phone calls or texts or.
Liza, I see you smiling.
Yeah.
What's your advice?
Well, because he said the older students, yes, I would honestly prefer a phone call. I'm on social media and, I do check my emails every day. The emails work, but I'm old fashioned. Like I would love if someone called me and said, hey, how can, do you have any questions? Or, yeah, I'd like a phone call.
So more of that person-to-person outreach.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Marianne, how about you?
I would agree on that too. Everyone's different. I'm not really on social media as much, even though I should be now with the whole transfer. But phone call would be best. Text messaging, of course, like reminders just straight to my phone. I check my emails every day as well, but I would say phone too, as far as texting or email.
Great, thank you. And there's a question, Mariana, about the traffic in the Canvas shell, and is it getting a lot of traffic? Are students checking in and checking often, going through all of the steps? What's your experience thus far?
So I just turned it on in April, right? Or made it completely active in April. And so, yes, so in a short amount of time, I started in actually November, but I now have about 1,000 students, and students are getting the messages every single day through as they hit 30. So as the grades are being posted right now, they're getting that, and students are contacting me about it, what it is. So in Canvas, there's an analytic page that you can go into and see how often students are hitting the pages and which pages they're hitting, right? So what is the most popular one? on there. And so it has all those analytics. Some students spend 5 minutes in it, and other students spend, you know, over 2 hours. So it just, every student's a little bit different, but you can, if I type in Emiliano, right, it'll tell me how long he's been on that Canvas shell and what pages he viewed. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty intuitive. You can also do push notifications. So I originally sent this invite to about 1,500 students, and I can go back in and, you know, click some buttons, push some buttons. I'm still learning Canvas myself, and it will tell them, hey, you know, you haven't accepted this course. And so it's pretty, Canvas is pretty cool.
So you can be even more proactive about the outreach to the students to go ahead and open this up.
They can, when I do an announcement, they can reply back to me, and they do, right? And so they'll ask me questions. I need to meet with you. I need to meet with someone. And so I just, you know, divert them back to our virtual services. And this Canvas is already on Commons, and so you can download it. In the chat, I put the name. It's called CHC. It's time to apply for transfer. And it's pretty close to the iteration I have. Every day I go in and spend a little bit of time on it, so it's a little bit different, but you can see the layout.
Great, thank you. Another question that came up in the chat is around the role of faculty in providing support to students around their transfer goals and process. And we did find in the research that when students connected to faculty, that guidance and support could be very useful, and specifically around program and major related information about transfer steps to take in that program area. Students, I'm wondering if you can speak at all to your experience around faculty proactively supporting you in your transfer journey, or not, about the role specifically of faculty.
I wouldn't say they're proactively supporting you. It's just, they just do their job. They just go in and teach whatever they teach, and then they're done with it. They don't really encourage you to transfer, unless maybe you talk to them, but it's not there, basically.
Marianne, what's your experience in that respect?
As far as that, I want to say they do have a lot of encouragement. They're there to help you whenever you need it. Anything that, you know, anything that has to be asked, they're there. No matter what, you can show up whenever, just ask and get a hold of them. They're just very encouraging, in my opinion.
Okay. So that moral support and that encouragement can
just knowing that you can do it and it can be done. It's really nice to hear.
Liza, how about you? Was there a particular faculty that might have played a role in your transfer journey?
Yeah, definitely Mariana. She was really a key player in helping me transfer, and you know, she really saw something that I didn't see. Like I said, I had applied to a Cal State, and you know, I didn't get in for, you know, some reason, and you know, she helped me see that I could get into a different school, and really opened my eyes to the opportunities that are out there to me. And you know, I'm really grateful to her for that, because you know, like I said, I got into UCLA, like and I also had very caring professors. I had an English professor that he really cared about his students at Crafton, and I know he's no longer there, and I sure miss him. You know, I keep in touch with him, and definitely, you know, Crafton is a great school. They definitely have faculty that care about you, and they want to see you succeed.
Just to clarify, when I meant faculty, I meant professors. I know the faculty, the administrative faculty like Mariana, they've been really helpful. But yeah, like the professor side, they are willing to help you, but they're not encouraging to like, oh yeah, you should transfer, you should go do this and do that. It's more like their singular class.
Right. Thank you again. So we're at time. So we wanted to thank the students again, Marianne, Liza, and Emiliano, for your time to share your transfer experiences with everyone. We wanted to thank Mariana again for sharing your incredible resource to support students during this time, and also provide a thank you for providing advice and guidance throughout this project. So thank you so much for that. And then finally, now that we've shared with you all what we learned from the 800 students about their transfer experience, and shared with you all how Crafton Hill College students, as well as the Transfer Center, is supporting transfer success locally, we are going to be leaving you all with some resources that you can find on our website. So on our website, after the end of this webinar, we will upload the recording for this webinar, as well as a copy of the slide deck. And then also on the webpage, you will also find a copy of the report. Thank you again, everyone, so much for making the time so that we can share with you our research, and so that we can spotlight the great work that Crafton Hills College is doing to support transfer success at their institution.
And we'll leave the webinar running. For any of you who didn't get your question in, please put it in the chat, and we will download the chat and try to answer any questions that we weren't able to during this time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Stay well.